All right, so being a YouTuber, a lot of my research, I listen to other people in the niche of retirement, and it's funny how a lot of them say things that I just don't agree with. You know, I call this bad advice, but it's bad advice for me and the people that I know in retirement. So anyway, these are things that I don't necessarily agree with. And number one is taking Social Security at 62. Now that one can be good or can be bad. It's not bad advice, but it's something that's a personal decision that you really need to look into. You know, taking it at 62, you can look at it as I'm going to take my money right away and I'm going to save my nest egg. And you know that there is some philosophy to that makes sense under certain conditions. You know, the other thing you're thinking about is I want more money when I'm younger because I'm going to spend more when I'm young. And that is maybe true to a certain extent, but you know, if you've ever listened to the SMILE concept, you're going to spend more during your go-go years. You know, your slow-go years, your spending is going to slow down a little bit. And then towards end of life, your spending is going to go up again because of health reasons. So you could actually be needing more money towards your 80s and whatnot. And you need to take a look at that and see how you're going to be, you know, set up for life as an older adult. Now, there are also some really good reasons to take it at 62. One is your life expectancy. You know, if you're not in good health, if your, you know, family history says that you probably aren't going to live to be 90 or 95 years old, you know, that may be a really good reason to go ahead and take it at 62 is your longevity of your life. The other really good reason to do it is, you know, if you lost your career, if you lost your job and you really need the money to survive, there is nothing wrong with taking the money early. But what you got to realize, when you take your Social Security at 62, that Social Security is gaining a percentage every year that you don't take it, between 6 and 8%. Plus, it's one of the retirement plans that gives you a COLA advantage or cost of living allowance. So every year you can wait, it's kind of like a guarantee from 62 to 67 that you'll get 6% a year plus your COLA, and then from 67 to 70 you get 8%. So that's not a bad deal. If somebody could tell you, hey, I'm going to guarantee you 6% on your money, you know, on a CD, you might jump all over that. So it's not a bad idea to see if you can push that off. But you know what? I'm not a professional financial advisor, so go out and get a professional financial advisor to go ahead and build a plan just for you and take a look at Social Security and see when the optimum time to take it is. Okay, and the number two piece of advice that I hear that I disagree with is, you know, take 4% of your money and that's what you can withdraw every year. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, because if you're going to retire early, and when I say early, earlier than you're going to draw your Social Security, you know, you're probably going to need more than 4% of your nest egg to kick in. And then once you start drawing Social Security, then you can back that percentage down. So, you know, it's a lot more complex than that, especially if you're going to retire early. And the 4% rule was set up by Bill Bangan. And basically what it is, it says if you want a 30-year retirement, you can take 4% of your portfolio per year and adjust for cost of living each year, and you should be just fine. You shouldn't run out of money. And it's a great rule of thumb, but there's just too many people who take it completely to heart and end up working way, way too long. A lot of people will say, you know, a lot of people that I worked with would say, I'm not even going to look at my Social Security. I'm going to take 4% of my nest egg. Well, if you can save that much money, you know, good for you. I'm really glad. But if you're going to be 70 before you reach that number, you know, you've given up a lot of years between 60 and 70 that you could have retired and banked on some Social Security or something like that. And hopefully you're not going to work too long. Now, personally, I use the 4% rule as a check and balance. So I set up guardrails between, 4% being the low and 8% being the high. And that's right now before I draw Social Security. Then when my Social Security kicks in, that number is going to go more to like 2% or 3%. And that your withdrawal rate is going to change. It can change with the way the investments, with the way the market's going. If you set up these proper guardrails and you just pay attention to your investments. So anyway, I wouldn't set up my plan on a hard 4% rule. I would take a look at how it's going to need to vary depending on different things, depending on cost of living, inflation, and market influence. So I'd like to pause here for just a moment. As this little channel is starting to gain some momentum and grow, I notice I'm not getting very many comments. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate it if you'd go down in the comments section and hey, just let me know where you're from. I think it'd be cool to know where YouTube is sending this video out to. So anyway, if you would, drop me a comment down below, please. All right, so number 3 is fees and financial advisors just aren't worth it. Well, I disagree with that in certain conditions. Now, if you're willing to do a deep dive into, investment strategy, tax strategy, the effects of RMDs and Roth conversions and things like that, if you're willing to do all that deep dive and that work, and it's kind of like having a part-time job, then you probably don't need a financial advisor. There are probably a lot of you who can go ahead and take care of that, get some comprehensive software like you can get with Bolden, and you can probably manage your own portfolio and your own retirement just fine without a financial advisor. But if you're in a situation like I'm in where you have a spouse and they don't necessarily like to do that deep dive, and they're not going to do the deep dive, if something happens to you, then you may want to take a look at having a financial advisor in your corner and even having them manage your assets for you for a fee. And that fee is normally around, depending on how much you have, it can be from 0.75% to 1.25%. And it is pretty substantial. But if they're doing their job and you're not the greatest investor in the world, hopefully they can make that 1.25% back up for you because you're not a great investor. So the other thing they can do for you is they can keep your portfolio rebalanced. And what I mean by that is when the stock market rises up, pretty soon you've got more stocks than you do bonds and you get out of balance. Like I like to stay in a 60-40 portfolio. And if I let it go too long without rebalancing it, the next thing you know, I'm in an 80-20, and that's not where I want to be if the market takes a turn and starts back down. So having someone, a professional in your corner, can help you out in that aspect. Now, is it going to be right for everyone? And does everyone have enough money to pay the financial advisor? And, all those questions? Possibly not. But I just think that it's being a little narrow-minded to say that a financial advisor is not worth the money that you pay them. For some of us, it is going to be worth that money. For some of us, it's not. But, that again, that's a personal decision, and I don't think it's something that you should take lightly. I think you should go ahead and do the pros and cons and make sure that it's right or not right just for you. All right, number 4 is you must act now. Yeah, the US dollar is being devalued. A lot of political reasons and different things that people will tell you that you must act now. And you know what? In most of these cases, and I've been doing this a long time, the best action you can take is not to react, right? Go ahead and take a good hard look at things. And I'm not sure who to listen to when it comes to that sort of stuff if you don't have a financial advisor. But for me, my financial advisor is my sounding board. I can say, hey, what do we think about this? And he may lean in a little bit. There's been a couple times that my financial advisors leaned in a little bit and said, well, we could shift a little bit of money in here and do this and do that and maybe lessen some of the exposure if it's going to help you sleep better at night. And you know, that's the big thing, is what's going to help you sleep better at night. But after you've done this a few years and you've watched all these YouTube videos, and you know, they'll pop up on your home screen, you know, you must act now, you know, and you'll find out that most of the time, nothing is going to happen. And if it does, it's not going to be of a substantial effect to you. All right, number 5, when you're watching these videos and they start getting into, you know, well, we're going to go ahead and plan for a 7% market return. You know, when they use those hardline numbers, that's when I get a little hedgy on what they're saying, and I start to, you know, I won't say not listen to it, but I get a little bit worried about the content when they're using those baseline numbers, because you know, the market volatility, it changes and it goes up and down. And you know, from like 2000 to 2010, that was pretty much a dead period for the market. And not too many people were making too much during that period of time. And that can happen for long periods of time. So again, I'm going to bring up that you should build your plan, or I think that you should have your plan built having some guardrails where those numbers fluctuate, because there's what's called a sequence of return risk. And what that means is, if you retire and you go into retirement and the market falls 25% just right away, and it stays down for a while, and then it comes back out towards the, you know, the middle or end of your retirement, that's going to really affect your retirement substantially. Whereas if the market rises and just, you know, stays on a steady incline, and then it falls off towards the mid or the end of your retirement, you know, you're going to be in a lot better shape. So you really got to pay a lot of attention to what the market does during the first years of your retirement. Not to say you don't pay attention to it later on, but you want to go ahead and really be aware of what's going on with your money in the first few years of retirement during your go-go years. We'll throw that into the go-go category. Then as it goes into the slow-go and the no-go years, it becomes where it's a little less affected on what it does to your overall retirement. Okay, and number 7 is retirement is all sunshines and unicorns. Well, you know, it is great. I'm not going to lie. I'm enjoying retirement, but it's not all sunshines and unicorns. Along with getting older come the health concerns. And not only concerns, you're going to the doctors more. You know, which you have more free time to do that now, but a lot of your time is going to be taken up with medical issues. And I had a really bad one. I had a brain injury earlier this year that took up about 5 months of my first year in retirement, where I couldn't do a whole lot. So I'm getting back now to where I can. But you know, it's things like that are going to take up some of your time, and it's not going to be all sunshines and unicorns. So as you're getting ready to go into retirement, or if you have retired and you're kind of going, well, what am I going to do? Think about, what does a typical Wednesday look like? What am I going to do on a typical Wednesday? You know, nothing planned. I'm not traveling. You know, I don't have a doctor's appointment. You know, you can't figure, well, I'm going to sit down and binge watch on TV. Well, that may be fine for a day, for a couple of days, something like that. But that's not what you're going to be doing every day on a typical day. You got to kind of lay it out and figure out what you're going to do with your time, because, you know, you may want to look at photography, woodworking, you know, things like that that just can help you spend your time in a productive way. So I'm not a professional. I'm not a financial advisor. So if you're looking for professional financial advice, there are a lot of YouTube channels out there. And most of them, when it comes to the financial part, they are certified financial planners. So they provide a great service for us out there. But I would say just be careful of the channels that you subscribe to, and make sure that they're channels that you want to be associated with. And most of them, the really good ones, are going to be more teaching channels. And if you find that the channels you're watching are really, really complex, go out and maybe look for some other channels and see what you can find, because that's what they want to do. They want to make it complex, to make you feel like you can't manage your own retirement, or that you don't have a say in how your retirement goes. So for that reason, again, I believe in financial advisors. I think that they do a great job and they provide a great service for us, but you got to be careful. So if you're looking for a financial advisor, interview 2 or 3 of them and see how they talk to you. And if they start getting really super complex, maybe that's not the person that you want to go to. So I hope this video has helped you out some. And if it has, if you would, reach down, hit that like button, and watch this video next.